Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Our apologies for that abrupt switch, but here we are back again. Liz Hayford-Nassari is a media consultant, and she joins us via Zoom. Liz, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us once more.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Great. I'll pick your thoughts on a few matters before we delve into the papers, but we're talking about the E-levy this morning and what it has generated for us 2 months on. There was a lot of talk from some people. I mean, we had surveys conducted here where we sampled some people in the Ashanti region and other regions where people seemed to be more averse to the levy than for it. But, you know, people in establishment, people in our government also made mention of the fact that, look, nobody likes taxes. I remember the last time I engaged with Kweku Kwarteng, he indicated no one likes taxes. And so you don't expect people to tell you they love it. But some of the figures we're seeing, Imani Africa conducted a survey. According to them, 83% of, what used to be the component of E-levy has fallen off. So it's just about 17% they are raking in. Yesterday, we had someone who, walks the corridors of power in the MPP, also suggesting that it's just about 10%. So maybe within this window, would have got about 600 million, and yet we've got just about 60 million. Of course, we don't have the proper sourcing because in the end, the central bank would be the proper entity to give us full details. But on the back of these, at least the smoke that we can get from the fire, what do you make of it?
E-levy. I don't know what to make of it. I just think that listening around to what people are saying, nobody likes taxes, especially when it comes to communication tax. When we try to improve communication and yet we think that it's important to tax people keeping in touch with others or being able to relay information as a result of an emergency or something. But when you talk about the E-levy, electronic levy, that tax, I mean, nobody is for it. And I have questioned that why do they keep taxing the same people over and over again when salaries are not being increased? We are paying a lot in taxes already. The economic situation currently is nothing to write home about. It's not a good situation for most people. People are living from hand to mouth. Nobody is making a saving. Nobody is opening a bank account. So they're saying that every Ghanaian should have a bank account. It's not possible. It's not feasible currently because people are spending their monies on a lot more than they bargained for. Prices of food in the markets has gone up. Prices of services have gone up. And if you go on taxing the people the same amount of money that they're receiving, then people would find other means of communicating. And I can say that some people have gone back to looking for people who are going to their villages to give them monies to send to families. And so definitely we won't be raking in anything from E-levy, not in the early stages. And I don't think it will improve going forward. Because
you don't think it will improve?
No, I don't. If people accepted it in the beginning and you started slow, then you say that, okay, people have accepted it, so it will improve. But people have not accepted E-levy. People will find means and ways around E-levy to make whatever transfers of monies that they want to make. And so I don't think it will improve.
This is targeted. So you see, just like the VAT, we did, complain about it at the inception, but eventually we got a hang of it, so to speak, and now it's practically on most of the things you would buy, even food you eat at certain places. We all pay it, directly or indirectly, whichever way we pay it. But in this instance, this is a targeted tax. Electronic transactions, money as well. But if you say it will never catch on, is it the aversion to it, or is it just that maybe some measures must be put in place? Because right now, Liz, what we are contemplating is, and I've seen so many people start talking about it, should we go to the IMF? Should we focus on the E-levy? Or should we have a fusion of both? The interesting thing is, if we had wanted to go to the IMF, many months ago, maybe about a year ago, would have been the best time on the back of certain developments. Now we've waited for a long time. There are stipulations to be met. There are so many things that ought to be done. So now the conversation is back. But if we really don't pay the E-levy, what will that mean? If people continue with this aversion that, I mean, we all are cognizant of, what would that mean?
I think that there should be a lot more dialogue and a lot more analysis with our economic situation. You hear one thing today and then you hear another thing tomorrow from the same group of people. As to whether we should go to the IMF or not, I believe that our current circumstances determines, and we realize that we have overborrowed, if there's anything like that. And so we are right now in very dire straits. The government will tell you that, oh, you don't have to go to the IMF, there's a lot of resources. But we realize that the resources that we're looking at, we have hedged beforehand, we have hedged ahead. And therefore, monies that are coming in will not be anything that we can use now, because we've collected monies in advance for products that we are now going to come up with. And so it becomes a very precarious situation. Do we go to the IMF? The government should tell us. They keep saying that they would not go to the IMF. I realize that sometimes they let their guard down and say that if circumstances don't improve, then we'll go to the IMF. But circumstances currently are there. We are really struggling as a nation now, economically. And anybody who does not see it chooses not to see it. And so I believe that if the IMF would give us a bailout that would cushion us for the meantime, why not? Because the economy has to grow. But what are the steps that we're going to take? And if we are not going to be candid with each other and speak to the issues the way they are, and we choose to hide our heads in the sand like ostriches and think that everything is rosy and everything is good, then it will take us a very long time to come out of the mess that we are putting ourselves in.
And that candidness, that honesty is what most people have been calling from our government on the back of some of these latest developments. It's also crucial, before I get into the daily graphic, to know that our reserves, what they were. I was just looking for the figures because I saw them in recent times, but I think we had over 6 billion or so in terms of reserves generally, and now it's whittled down to something below 5 billion or less, much less. And it's got a lot of people worried about, how we're going to cope moving forward. But let's see how things pan out. Of course, we can only wish the best for our own country. We cannot be part of those who say, country broke or country no broke, we day inside, because our mind so we have to do everything possible.
But let me add, Benjamin, that I think that there's a lot more that we can do as a nation when it comes to producing for ourselves. We do not consume what we produce. We are not producing enough for ourselves.
Fair point.
And the question is, what are the monies being used for? Because we hear that there's so much money that is being pumped in, but we are not seeing it. We are not seeing the outcomes. We are not seeing the results. We are not seeing our industries really up and running. And so we keep importing. And if we keep importing, and if we are importing everything, including onions and tomatoes and pepper, then I don't know where we are headed.
And that's a very important point you made, because in our own interactions, you speak to a lot of people and they tell you, look, the huge taxes, even for what we collect, we know generally there is a pool of people who could be paying taxes who are not paying taxes, whether through tax evasion or avoidance. That is a fact. But a lot of people will tell you, it's not about wanting to pay taxes. I travel to other countries and I gladly pay the taxes, because if I need an ambulance, there's an ambulance there. If I'm in some sort of trouble, I get assistance. Even if my cat gets stuck in the tree, you know, there is assistance. The fire service and others are immediately there. But here, I pay all my taxes, and I don't see this, I don't see that. That is the problem. Yesterday, you know, a stalwart of the MPP, Gabi Asare-Ochodako, posted something about the fact that if the E-levy is not raking in as much as it was expected to generate, it's not because it's a bad tax. It's just because people don't like paying taxes. And some of the responses there pointed to exactly what you're saying, that, look, it's not about taxing me. It's about what you do with my taxes. That is the major issue. If I'm seeing a lot of benefit from my taxes, I would want to pay more. Anyway, let's get into the Telegraphic newspaper now. National Service Teacher Training Program starts September. That's on page 16. Dasebre Kwekubwateng sworn in as new Dwabenhene. And industrialization drive, 67 business resource centers built, 37 in operation. That's according to Trade Minister Alan Trebateng. There's also government considers regularizing built-up areas of CSIR land. We've recently seen Henry Quartey, the Greater Accra Regional Minister, make a move in that respect and reduce fuel prices to lower cost of food, traders to government. Liz, I'm going to be focusing on a few of these stories, 1, 2, or 3. There are some interesting stories on page 16, as well as the one on page 20. But let's start with the industrialization drive. So, the country's industrialization agenda has received a major boost with the establishment of 67 business resource centers across the country. They were set up by the Ministry of Trade and Industry under the Rural Enterprises Program to support the growth and competitiveness of micro, small, and medium enterprises. The BRCs are providing business development services such as the identification of business opportunities, business plan preparation, facilitation of access to finance or credit, and business health checks, otherwise known as business diagnostics. Other services include the provision of training in management and entrepreneurship and more. So this has been launched, and the motive is clear. What do you think this would do, especially for the target groups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, and the one district, one factory companies? Another brilliant move that will really change anything, or candidly something that will not do much?
I'm hopeful that it will do a lot, because I think that the micro and small businesses, we've heard about them from, from way back.
Right.
What we don't see is them growing to become big businesses. I know that some of the businesses that we see that are multi-million businesses today started small. What happens is that we start well, we end up having a lot of sole proprietorships. They don't want anybody to join them, so they are single-handedly or micromanaged by one person. And even when you can build some of these businesses into cooperatives, they are reluctant because everybody wants to be a boss in his small area. And so the businesses don't go. So you see a lot of people producing the same thing. And so it's competition amongst themselves instead of them growing the business to give us a better product. We talk against monopolies, but I think that sometimes monopolies are good, especially if it is not a one-man thing. If it is a group of people who have come together and decide that they want to produce an iPhone or a new mobile phone, and they put their resources together and their expertise and come out with a brilliant phone that would match an iPhone or any other phone, a Huawei or anything that is on the market, then you are growing your business, then you're growing your industries. I remember back in the day when they used to have the industrial and technological fair and trade fair. You go and you realize that the universities have come up with all kinds of mechanisms and machineries to do all kinds of things. And I remember even far back then, they were producing a fufu making machine.
Right.
Now, if you go onto the market to buy a fufu making machine, it's not made in Ghana. You get them from Japan, you get them from China, you get them from everywhere else but Ghana, where we
You're going too far with the fufu pounding machine. Look at our local textiles. You say you are donning African print. A lot of it is not from here.
No,
a lot of it is from other countries. And the Chinese now are producing this en masse, and that is what we are buying.
And it's because our cost of production is high. And why is the cost of production high? Because there are a lot of taxes. You have to pay a lot of taxes to be able to get your business up and running. And if you start to make a profit, most people, when they start making profits, do not reinvest their profits in their businesses. And so after a while, you see the businesses dwindle and die. When we had businesses that were growing and were doing well, the individuals were targeted. And Aztec, for instance, was producing fruit juice, and people were importing from South Africa, but Aztec was doing good business.
Right.
What happened to it? So if we do not patronize what we ourselves are producing, our industries won't go anywhere. They'll start well, but they will dwindle. If the Ministry of Trade does not continue to monitor and evaluate and improve on the small-scale businesses, they won't go anywhere. They will start well and they will die. We used to do a lot of tie and dye prints, and people used to wear them. Gave them all kinds of names, and people stopped wearing it, and so you hardly see it anymore.
Right.
And so we do it to ourselves, and if we are not, if we don't change our attitude, and if we don't reorientate ourselves and believe in what we are producing and patronize what we are producing, our businesses won't grow.
Let me bring you 3 quick stories very quickly from the Daily Graphic. That's how we'll wrap. The first one on page 16, National Service Teacher Training Program starts September. And note this, Liz, the National Service Scheme and the National Teaching Council will, from September this year, roll out a program that will allow national service persons posted to the classrooms without teaching certificates, but who are willing to teach after their service to obtain professional teaching certificates. That's the first story. So they want to, they are posted to the classroom, and after service, they do want to stay. They'll be given the right teacher training so they can phase into the teaching field. On page 17, criticisms must be devoid of insults. And that is coming from the General Superintendent of the Assemblies of God Church, Reverend Professor Paul Frimpong Manso, who has urged the public to desist from hiding behind criticism, to attack and insult persons who have devoted their lives to serve the nation. I found it interesting, though. I do agree with him, but he says those who have devoted their lives to serve the nation. How about those who are in there who haven't devoted their lives to serving the nation, but to serving themselves? And that's just on the lighter side. And my final story, reduce fuel prices to lower cost of food. That is on page 20. Traders have called on the government to take urgent steps to reduce fuel prices to mitigate the economic hardships they currently face. Now, the trading community made the call at an interactive forum held by the Cabinet Ministerial Committee set up by the President to look into the causes of the high cost of foodstuffs on the market in Accra yesterday. So present at the forum, the Food and Agriculture Minister, Dr. Owusu Efiakoto, Transport Minister, Kweku Ofori-Esiama, Information Minister, Kojo Ponkroma, among others. But note this right before you come in. The forum brought together traders in yam, maize, fruit, tomatoes, as well as transport operators. And they were noting skyrocketing prices. For example, during the opening session, the committee made a presentation that indicated that visits to 10 markets over the last 2 weeks has shown that the wholesale price of tomatoes at farm gates in the rural areas was about 300 Ghana cedis, but it skyrocketed to 900 Ghana cedis on urban markets, a difference of 600 cedis. For yam, it said wholesale prices ranged between 500 Ghana cedis and 1,500 Ghana cedis, depending on the location, but increased by almost 100% on urban markets. You could also talk about the fact, Liz, that there is the transportation wahala and all the other things, fuel costs and all of that. So the bit about reducing fuel prices is here, national service persons to get further training if they want to teach, and politics devoid of insults. Your quick reactions.
Let me start with the teachers. and national service personnel who want to teach. They probably will want to teach in the interim because there are no jobs anywhere. And so it's good to give them a training in teaching. But for how long would they stay? I mean, and if you think that you want to employ teachers, why are you not training proper teachers who will take up the jobs? Because I'm just imagining that if somebody does engineering and the person has finished national service and is not getting a job immediately, the person goes to teach. If the person is teaching, he's still looking out for a job in the engineering because that is where his interest is.
Right.
And so if he should get one, he moves up. And then what happens to those that he's teaching? I love to teach. I love to teach because I got into it by default, and I found it very interesting because when you're helping people to understand certain things, it's heartwarming. I'm looking for a particular word, but you get a lot of satisfaction in the end when you realize that people come up to you and say, "Oh, you taught me in 2002. Oh, I was in your class," and you see the people have risen and probably are members of parliament and are heads of businesses and are in all kinds of places. So there is that satisfaction. But how do we treat our teachers? Our teachers in Ghana today, their salaries is nothing to write home about. And therefore, you realize that when you go into the international schools, you have to pay a lot for your child in school, not because the school wants to charge that much, but they have teachers that they have to pay. And if they go for graduate teachers, then you know the kind of salaries that they will be expecting. So we need to do a lot. It's a good idea, but how would you maintain your national service personnel who want to go into the classroom, They probably will use it as a stepping stone for higher places to go to. So we must be careful the way we go about it. If you want teachers in our classrooms, let's look more at training teachers and making sure that we pay them well.
Right.
When you come to the criticism without insult, I agree 100%. You can criticize people without insulting them.
Right.
And like you said, what about those who have not devoted their lives to? And you realize that it's those who have not devoted their lives to the progress and the development of the country who will be insulting those who have devoted their lives to making sure that things go well. We need to criticize constructively. Don't criticize for criticizing's sake. I believe that there are a lot of things that sometimes I hear criticisms and I'm like, oh, really? So what would you think that the person should do? And then you realize that the person just wants to denigrate the person they're talking about, and they're not really criticizing what the person is doing because they haven't really looked at what the person is doing. And so we should be careful when it comes to that. I think that a lot of people are doing a lot of work. A lot of people are sacrificing. We all don't have the answers to everything. Two heads better than one. So we should be prepared to listen, and we should be prepared to help each other. And helping each other, that should not be reduced to insulting somebody for something wrong that the person has done, or for something that the person hasn't done well, or for something that you think you could have done better than the person who has done it. I mean, your criticism should contribute to building and not destroying.
Right.
And your last take was? Lower
fuel prices to avoid hikes in food prices.
I have not looked at the fuel prices lately and the taxes that is in there, but I believe that there were certain taxes that people were asking that be removed from fuel. And now the fuel prices, the hikes are just too much. You're talking about food being transported, but when you look at even internally, just going around with, and let me not say a taxi, because sometimes the taxis, the prices they call are more reasonable, but if you want to be more secure, you probably would go for a Bolt or an Uber or a Yango. And when you look at the prices for short distances that you have to pay, then you wonder about those who travel outside to bring in food.
Right.
And the transportation costs. And I hear that sometimes even the drivers who are transporting your food will charge you per the volume of produce that you're putting on the vehicle. And if that is the case, then definitely the one who is going out to bring the food in would want to recover the costs and make some profits. So it will definitely translate from what you buy at the farm gates to some high percentage, because there are all kinds of things that you have to take into consideration. And if it's produce that degenerates quickly, that gets destroyed, they're perishable items, then the person also would want to ensure that they do not make a loss, because if your items come and they're not in the kind of shape that people will want to buy from the market, then it's left on your hands. And if it's left on your hands a few days and it perishes, are you going to lose all that money because you couldn't make sale? So they would make sale on the little that they have brought in that is good to be able to sell, and that is what would send prices through the sky. So we need to do these things, and definitely as for fuel prices, if it comes down, everybody will be very happy, because the moment fuel prices go up, it has a rippling effect on everything.
And that indeed is a fact. Let's quickly look at the other papers. Graphic Business, BDC struggle for dollars to import. We know, so the target is about $450 million that they need monthly. So far, they are getting just about 21% of that. That is $100 million, leaving them with a deficit of $350 million. And that also is affecting the fuel prices. Quarter of insurance claims fake, phenomenon soiling industry's reputation. And it has emerged that the quarter of daily insurance claims from the public is fake. So you're looking at over 4 million, and just about 1 million is said to be genuine. The Ghanaian Times newspaper, avoid monkeypox by adhering to COVID-19 safety protocols. That's according to Dr. Sassi. So if you want to avoid monkeypox, similar protocols that we're adhering to when it comes to COVID-19. African ministers draw new education plan, and it has emerged looking at our growth when it comes to the educational sector. There has been some decline per the latest statistics that we have. And it's no surprise that we're seeing this. African ministers draw new education plan. NDC, a night demo drama with police. NPP okays candidates for elections. And E-levy failing to deliver. I want to pick your thoughts on these two to wrap the conversation very briefly. So the fall of educational standards, and also workers need 20% COLA urgently. So that's according to the TUC's Secretary General, Dr. Yao Ba. He says proposed hikes in utility tariffs should be suspended, and workers need a cost of living allowance. Maybe you don't need to broach that because you've already spoken about the teachers and all of that, so it's in there. You can look at the new educational plan and this demonstration we're having, the Arise Ghana demonstration on the hard times that the country is facing, according to them. What is your quick take on this in about a minute so we can go?
The education, I mean, we have toyed with our education for too long. I think that it's time we have all our educationists, all stakeholders in education sit around the table and come up with a program that suits our environment.
Right.
And so the African ministers of education are looking at sitting down. I think that it is a good sign. Let us look at what we need as a people. What do we want our students to come out as? Do we want them to come out trained and wanting to seek greener pastures because the salaries here is nothing to write home about? And so it should be holistic. We shouldn't just look at part and leave part. We should look at the whole issue when it comes to education, right from preschool to tertiary and even postgraduate. We should look at it and make sure that when they come out, they fit into the society. And so we should be looking at building a society that it will be able to accommodate the kind of people that are coming out of school, and making sure that we have enough.
Okay.
If we are looking inwards, then we should have enough to be able to be paying well. If we are not able to pay well, people will definitely move out, because money to a lot of people gives them a lot of comfort, because they are able to purchase what they need and what they want. And then the next one is on
the demonstration. Just briefly on that.
The demonstration, I mean, who will demonstrate when things are not going too well? It's just a protest. It's just a kind of protest as to what we are facing. When you talk about the police coming in, I think that the police is only to provide protection and make sure that there's law and order.
Exactly.
And if they're not comfortable because of the times that you have chosen, they definitely will raise concerns. But I believe that there can be consensus. They should sit around the table. I have wondered why you want to be outside all night, especially when you're not in an enclosed space. And I question, what if there are miscreants who put on your T-shirts or whatever, and go and misbehave in town and give you a bad name? How are you going to be able to control the people that are out protesting? Because if you talk about thousands, I don't know if we would have that many policemen unless you are drawing them from all around the country to come and protect you and make sure that there is law and order. But I think that they should sit around the table and they should discuss. But I don't think that anybody should stop anybody from protesting if they think that it is important that they protest.
Liz Hafen-Asari, thank you for joining us for another beautiful session, another news review. Liz Hafen-Asari is a media consultant. But right before we veer into sports, we have another great win to share with you. Prince Appiah and Emmanuel Osei have won the IFAJ 2022 Star Prize Award in Agricultural Journalism for the video category. It's underway in Denmark. Now, their entry is part of production for Food Chain on JoyNews. Prince Appiah now joins the conversation. Prince, it has been a while. Good to see you, and congratulations on this award.
Yeah, it's been a while. Thank you very much, Ben.
What's the feeling like? I mean, bagging this award, did you expect it?
No, I didn't expect I didn't expect to win. I had completely forgotten about it until I was prompted that I had won the award. So it's a surprise to me, and I'm really, really grateful.
Right. So the whole bit about going to Denmark, pick up this prize, what does it mean to you, the two of you, but to you especially, bagging this award as far as what you do in the agricultural space?
I think it continues to stamp the fact that agriculture reporting needs to be given the necessary attention that it deserves. Issues about food security is very important to all of us, everything we do. And I think that it's about time a lot of us get into that space, trumpet the challenges farmers are facing. And because currently we are all talking about, inflation and high food prices and, the threat to food security and all that. I think it's about time we all get into the space, talk about it, make sure that things are done right so that we are all okay. I'm really, really feel special about this award. And I believe that it will continue to, urge me, myself, and my colleague Emmanuel Osei to continue doing the good work we've been doing, especially on Food Chain, which has been a beautiful program that has decided, Kessie JoyNews have decided to talk about agric and everything about agric, from the challenges from the farm to the table, to ensure that the necessary policies are made to help the agric space. And so I'm very excited about it, and I'm happy for my colleague Emmanuel Osei as well, and the whole team basically.
And kudos to you guys, a big jab if you like, for the yeoman's work you've been doing, really. I was going to ask how much of a motivation this had been, but you've answered it right there. It is a big motivation. We were just showing snippets of that piece live on the screen. But maybe right before you go, what do you think this will do for agricultural journalism, so to speak, agricultural journalism in the country when the likes of you and Emmanuel say win prizes like this? What do you think? What statement does it make for Ghanaian, media when it comes to agricultural journalism?
Yeah, as I said before, I think it encourages, especially the younger ones who do not see agric reporting as some field to get into. A lot of people are interested in politics. I think it should serve as an encouragement to the young ones to get into areas like that, because as I continuously see, issues about agric and food security is very important to our environment and our sustainable development. And so I urge everybody, at least majority of journalists, to get into this area and push the agenda.
Prince Appiah, congratulations once more, and thank you for joining us. And of course, we also thank you for bagging this big prize, under our umbrella. We are proud of you. Prince Appiah, together with Emmanuel, bagging that 2022 Star Prize for their video on agricultural journalism. And we celebrate them, of course. Up next, we serve you sports, and after that, we get into our big stories. We're contemplating the E-levy 2 months on. That's a big one we're looking at. Stay.